welcome to everybody on behalf of the Southeastern Museums Conference. We're so happy to see you all here again. Thank you for coming to these weekly meetings. There's 50 of you on. I think we'll continue to gain more. But this one is going to be super fun. I'm excited about listening to our speakers today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Zinnia Willits. I'm for 3 more days the Director of Collections at the Gibbs Museum in Charleston, South Carolina, where I've been for a really long time. But as of May 1st, I actually took over for Susan Perry as SEMC Executive Director. So I am in transition with that job, and pretty much as of next week, that will be my full-time job. I've had a great career here at the Gibbs, and I'm sad to go. It's been interesting being in a museum, just like all of you, while we go through our own process of moving towards reopening. Some of our staff have been coming back. We've moved office spaces all over the place, and we are set for a June 1 reopen. There's a lot of anxiety about that, what that looks like, what the reality is. So I'll be interested when we begin to gather again in June to talk about for those of us who are opening. Sorry, I'm just going to say right now, if I mute you during the session, please don't be offended. Sometimes we all forget that our microphone's on and just in our speakers, but I always feel really bad doing that, so don't be mad at me. I'm going to turn it over to Michele right now, who has been really putting a huge effort into gathering speakers each week for these meetups. Along those lines, if you have an idea for a meetup for a topic that we haven't addressed yet that you would like to see SEMC provide a platform for, please email me, email Michele. We'll put our contacts in there and we'll make it happen, because we're really committed to continuing even through reopening and as we go into the summer to continue to provide places for our members and maybe new members to join together and begin to talk. All right, that's it for me.
Hi, all. My name is Michele Solty. I'm the Gallery Director and Curator at the Anna Lamar Switzer Center for Visual Arts in Pensacola, Florida at Pensacola State College. So, hello from sunny Florida. It is very sunny Florida today, I have to tell you that. So I'm grateful for that. But like Zinnia said, we've been hosting these webinars weekly, focusing a lot on education topics, but of course these issues go for outside of the realm of education. And I reiterate what Zinnia said. Please, if you have an idea, even if it's not education related, please email it to us, because we're always looking for speakers, and I'm always looking for really unique content. Next week, this webinar, which will be on Tuesday, is going to be about charging for virtual programming. And we're going to have just a general discussion about how to come up with a metric to decide how much to charge and, the factors behind charging and what really is going to drive that for all of us. Because as we get further into delivering virtual content, there's going to have to be a time when there is some sort of monetary compensation coming back in to justify a lot of job creation and to justify the extra work that education departments are putting into creating this type of programming. So that's next week's, and I'll post it over in the chat. And I even have myself little notes. Let me pull them back up because I closed them. And then also in the chat bar, you will see that I am going to put links to different things in the chat bar as we go along. And over there, you'll find right now, I keep a running Google Doc listing all the resources, the presentations, links, great ideas that come up during these meetings. I keep it all on this Google Doc. The link is over there in the chat bar area. I'll email it out next week for those of you that are listening in by phone. So please visit that. I update the content in it. It's up to 25 pages right now, and it includes an index. But I update the content in it every couple of days, and I mark any of the new content with the words new in bright red, so you're able to scroll down and find new content as it is posted. So check back on that regularly. And then also, over in the chat box, you will find another link to a Google Doc, and that has the results for our survey that I believe we distributed last week with our webinar announcement email about charging for virtual programming. And we had a lot of respondents, but we didn't have a lot of respondents who are actually charging. But there is some good data in there if you want to look through it. And you can see that we're all sort of in the same boat where we're trying to figure out pricing. And so that's why next week's webinar is so, that'll be really insightful for you if you want to join us for that. We also, Zane just put up a poll. Also, during this particular meeting, we're going to have the speakers. There's 4 speakers today. We're going to have them all speak in order. And I ask that you put all of your questions in the chat bar. And also, if you have any kind of insights, links that you think are useful, ideas that you're doing yourself, that you also want to add to the chat, that's fabulous. I take all of that information and I transcribe it at the end and put it in our Google Doc resource. And I'll also go through all the questions and I compile them in a Word document. And then at the end, I will ask all the speakers the questions, as many as we can get through, to try to keep the meeting under an hour. So please use that chat area as well. And lastly, I'm a little bit obsessed right now with the American Camp Association. And I'm going to put the link to their site in the chat bar after I introduce the speakers. But they have a lot of webinars and a lot of printed resources. And while everyone's thrown off by camp because they think of, like Boy Scout camp or YMCA camp, when you go to their website and you start looking through the webinars, they do a lot of things about inclusion in COVID-19. Leaving out special needs children in programming, cleaning facilities, legal questions with online and virtual programs. And so their resources, like I said, I've been a little bit obsessed with them this week. They're worth going to the website and checking out their resources and looking through them. So that's one plug I'm going to give today. And in fact, they just put out a booklet for reopening your camp that they designed along with the CDC. And I actually saw the director of the ACA on Headline News this morning talking about it. And so it's a really wonderful resource. Just imagine the word camp as museum in your mind. We're going to get right into our topic today, which is online games and activities. And just like Nia, I'm super excited about this one. We had a little preview of it earlier today. I'm going to introduce all the speakers right now, and then we'll just go through and they'll each take their turns to give their presentation. We have Courtney Hicks, the Outreach Assistant at the Avery Research Center for African American History and Culture from Charleston, South Carolina. Katy Menne, the Curator of Education at the North Carolina Maritime Museum at Southport, North Carolina. Lydia, Salais, the Public Programs Manager at the South Carolina State Museum in Columbia. And Timia Thompson, they're going to present together. So she's the Education Outreach Manager at the South Carolina State Museum as well. And so today we're going to begin with Courtney Hicks from the Avery Center.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I truly appreciate it. And I appreciate you all sharing the space with me so I can tell you all a little bit about the public programming that we are doing at the Avery. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get this started. So I'm going to take a little fun approach. I know today was about virtual events and games that you all can do with your museum. So I entitled today's presentation, Night at the Museum, how to bring a piece of your museum into everyone's home. So at the Avery, we have created a digital platform called the Avery Digital Classroom. So within the Avery Digital Classroom, we have different subheadings and subtopics of events that engage our community audience. Being that we're a historic building inside of Charleston Village in historic downtown Charleston, a lot of our engagement actually comes from our community members. So we want to make sure that we have a space that is not only engaging for them, but exciting. So in this presentation, I have the 5-step strategies that I use to help us plan some really effective and productive events in our Avery Digital Classroom. So my first tip is to know your audience. And know your audience in more than just who are your most well-attended people, who's the most people that come, but you want to reflect on well-attended in-person events. So when you are planning virtual events, you want to kind of have it mirror things that you have done in the past. So when I say reflect on well-attended in-person events, if you do surveys, I know us at the College of Charleston, we usually do have event surveys prior to the events that we produce. Look and see in the comment box, what did the attendees enjoy? Was it incentive-based or organic interest? So a lot of the museums that I know that are represented here in this seminar are actually connected to colleges. So it can be different attendance if you have a speaker that has a reception. It can be a different type of attendance if it's for class credit. So you want to look and see from those well-attended events, was it incentive-based or organic interest? And also, what was the subject area? Was it more historic or community-based? So you want to kind of pair that with how you presented the information. Was it a guest speaker that you brought in that brought a really great audience? Was it combined with current events, or was it a really heated political time or something really happening in current events that moved that event to be a little bit more well attended because it was on the top of people's interests at the time and was multimedia involved? So was it a film screening? Was it a movie discussion? These are all things that can easily be translated into a virtual space. Also, you want to take in consideration your target audience's age range. So at the Avery, we have been to school since 1867. So a lot of our former Averyites are still a part of our events. So we want to make sure that we are paying attention to the technology buffer. Our target audience is around 62 to 94 years old. So we want to make sure that we are using technology that is to navigate. So you want to be able to use closed captioning. So just in case you do have someone who may be hearing or vision impaired, so that you're able to have it accessible for all, and also make sure you're having an option to record it and reshare. The less work that your attendees do, the more likely they are to participate and come to more of your events. The next thing, this is kind of my hop into my mama mode, but you are not planning for yourself. So this can be really, really difficult because what I may be interested in, everyone else may not. So you want to think outside the box. So the best subcategories that we have planned within the digital classroom has been really productive for us is number one, performing arts. So visual arts, dance, poetry, music, entertainment. So we're able to host film viewings, book discussions, things to actually get people talking and get us chattering about current events and hot topics. Education. So the kids are still at home and in school. So this is a great time for you all as a museum to have events and to have different activities that's geared towards even a younger age range than you're usually used to. So at the Avery, we have a Black History Bugle creative arts contest. So that's something that we were doing in the month of February for Black History Month, but we're going to be able to reiterate that in the upcoming months as a way to give some students some more supplemental instruction at home and projects to keep them busy while you all are working from home. Also, allyship. Being that we are a community-centered museum, we want to make sure that we are assisting a lot of our community leaders in amplifying the voices of current issues that affect the museums the communities that we're surrounded by and that we serve. So you want to make sure that you're trying to find a way to plan events that help assist others' personal and professional interests as long as it's tactful, graceful, and has coup. You want to make sure that you're pairing your museum with that too. Also helps give you more support and more attendees who may have that common subject interest. And I know a lot of you all may be feeling like, I went from working to a museum to now feeling like I run a PR firm, because that's kind of how I feel. But you're going to do a little bit of influencer marketing in terms of how you want to pair your events with different hosts, with different speakers. So it's all about engagement. It's all about how you thrive within who you pick to have a part of your event and what type of community-centered events you want to host. So it's very important to have a person who you know has a strong following, but also really well educated on the subject matter at hand that you are crafting your event around. The third step, utilize key dates in cultural celebration. Use your platform as a safe space to celebrate. And this doesn't just have to be in forms of a post or informational video. You can do something really fun. So for Juneteenth, I'm actually planning a whole full day of celebration. It's going to be a 3-event day. First, we're going to have a Black-owned business spotlight. Secondly, we're going to have a Gullah Geechee cooking class. So we're going to have Chef BJ Dennis join us and teach all of our viewers about the Legici cuisine. And lastly, we're going to end with the Instagram live party. We're having a DJ take over our Instagram, and people are able to listen to good music and celebrate. So you want to utilize cultural celebrations and also important dates, and us being museum people, curators, and also historians, you want to make sure that you're using this time to highlight the true development of what created that holiday. So you can still do that in a really fun way that also is reaching the masses in a very educational form. Marketing is everything, and this is something that I reiterate time and time again. You can have the most amazing event. You can have the best event in the world. But if you don't have the right marketing and you don't have the right marketing strategy, that wonderful event can have 3 attendees. So funny thing, initially, Michele wanted me to speak on our digital escape room. And I was like, Michele, we only had 3 people that were there. We only had 3 people that were attending there. And I understand why. It was because we did not market that event in a way in which it was as appealing to our target audience. So underneath that is basically the top tips that I use when I'm creating marketing things for the Avery. You want to make sure it's also beautiful, and also that you're producing it in a timeline wherein people are able to see it frequently and remember it. Because I may have a beautiful flyer, but if I release it the day before, rather than 2 to 3 weeks prior to, you're not really having that large of a reach. So the best way for you to have the best marketing strategy for your virtual events, utilize your colors and always stay within the red family. So reds, oranges, yellows, really bright colors because they grab attention to the eye and also make you hungry for more. So stay within those color ranges. Make sure they're engaging. Don't just use the same template or font palette for everyone, but stay within, if you do have a font palette and color scheme with the museum, stay within that, but get creative. Make it easy to share. So if your social media pages they are private, make them public, because you never know where a share may take your post or your event from, being that we are living in a digital sharing space, and you never know where that flyer may end up. You also want to vary the type of multimedia share. So don't just do regular flyers. You might want to do videos, GIFs, fun things, multiple posts that people can swipe through, because that's going to push your engagement up a little bit different in the algorithm. So Instagram is really, really my favorite space. I love Instagram. It's my favorite thing on earth. That's the reason I have 9 hours of screen time a day. But Instagram is really tricky with the way in which the algorithm works. So you want to make sure that you are having organic comments, organic growth, and different types of posts so that they know that you're legit, and also moves your posts up on the algorithm so it works a little bit more in chronological order in your favor. Also, you want to vary per platform. You want to make sure that your captions are a little bit different according to what platform you're using. So Instagram, I may want something short, sweet, to the point. Twitter, as short as possible. But Facebook, might want to explain a little bit more in depth what's going on and what we're having, because how people read a little bit more and they pay a little bit more attention on Facebook versus the other platforms. And here are just a few examples of some well-attended events, and also one that we have tonight, and how I like to market it. So as you see, the really bright oranges, the reds, the different splashes of color, the different hits of really bright colors that I'm scrolling, and this is going to be something that I stop and pay attention to, because it is something that appeals to the eye. And my last point is switch up your platforms and hosts. I know it's really, really easy to just say, I'm just going to do everything on Zoom. It really does help me get rid of all this excessive stuff, but you want to broaden your reach. This is a great time for you to really do reach a lot of people. And the greatest way to reach the most people is to switch up what you're using, because you never know what that person's preferred platform may be. So I did mention prior to this slide about documentary showings and movie viewings and movie screenings. One of the great platforms that we use at the Avery is Netflix Party. So Netflix Party is an additional add-on that you can get through Google Chrome. You have to have a Netflix account. You do have to have a Netflix account. So within the Netflix account, you're able to host documentary showings in a universal space. So you're able to host up to 500,000 people in one Netflix party, which is an excessive number. I don't think we'll ever reach 500,000 people in a Netflix party, but you're able to view those at one time, and viewers are able to have a live chat. so they're able to chat with you all. If they have any questions or want some understanding about what you're actually showing, they're able to have that conversation there. And if you're like me and you really want to make sure you're hitting your numbers for the month, they do provide a full transcript at the end of the Netflix party that showcases who all was in there, how much time they actually spent, and the number of attendees that you did have. So that's great for making sure that you're holding yourself accountable for how many attendees you have for your event.
Wow.
Also, Instagram Live. Hosting live events while directly engaging with your target audience. So Instagram Live is probably one of my favorite things. I don't know if you all watch the versus battles on Saturdays, but I love them. But Instagram Live is a way you can post trivias, poetry readings like we're doing tonight at 6 o'clock p.m. Please come to the Avery page. And interactive events that not only drive engagement on your page, but also the attendees. So when you do go live, all of your followers do get notified that you are going live. And let's say you're going live with the person that's doing the trivia. Their followers are also notified. So that's another way that you can broaden your reach and expand your engagement within not only your network, but also your supporters and your attendees networks. Finally, Microsoft Teams. You're able to have more control over your live events. Unfortunately, the Avery Research Center was a victim of some really malicious Zoom bombings, so we no longer use Zoom as a host. However, we are very gracious to have Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is a little bit more difficult to utilize. Why? Because if you're working with the host like myself and my boss, Darren, we have to be producers. So we have to push all of the prisoners out. We push out the information, but we also have control over what's said. There's a 3 to 7 second lag. So if anything does happen that is distasteful, we're able to remove that from our viewership. And we're also able to release and dismiss comments so that we're making sure that everything has taste, class, and grace. And it also gives us a great skill set. Like my CV is going to be so beefed up after this because I'm now a producer. So that's pretty much my last point in the 5 steps to have the best engagement for your virtual events, and stay connected with us. If you would like to participate in our events, these are the top 3 places that you can reach us. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Courtney. And again, please put your questions and comments in the chat bar for us, and then at the end we will go over them. Next, we're going to have a co-presentation by 2 individuals from the South Carolina State Museum in Columbia, South Carolina, Lydia Salais and Timia Thompson. I'll let you take it away.
Hi, so I'm Lydia, and Timia is somewhere within this gallery view of people. But we will be talking about the virtual trivia program that we started at the State Museum. The first one we had was actually last week, and it ended up going really well. Timia she's the main host. I just helped co-host. But we last Thursday was our first one. We had a lot of great feedback, and so we will continue doing this until June 4th. It's every Thursday from 6:30 to 7:30, and I will let Timia take it away from here.
All right, so I'm going to do a quick screen share. Just as a note, our screen share is mainly to keep Lydia and I on track because we do tend to yammer back and forth. So please don't expect any massive amount of greatness from the presentation. It is just a way for us to be able to share more about the virtual trivia night that we offered at the museum. Oh, there we go. All right, so virtual trivia is co-hosted by the public programs manager, Lydia, who you just got a chance to be introduced to, and myself, the education outreach manager. This was a really kind of unique and interesting partnership because in our museum, public programs is in a completely separate division or department from education. So education is its own kind of entity, and public programs is under the collections and public programs department. So this really was kind of a cross-departmental kind of look at creating some really fun and unique online virtual content. So to answer the question of why virtual trivia, well, I absolutely love trivia. And Lydia and I have been trying to get trivia at the museum for a very, very long time. And we were kind of working out the ways to best do that. Taking a look at the audience around Columbia who would come to the museum for an actual trivia night. It just so happened, however, that with COVID-19 and everything associated with it, we found ourselves in a really big position to kind of take a look at how we could transform our idea for trivia at the museum to one that could be well adapted to a virtual audience. So one of the first things that we did was we did a little bit of research. So that involved investigating who else was doing something like this. That took us to Facebook first and foremost. I follow a lot of museums and science centers, primarily in North Carolina, because that's where I have spent the most of my adult life. I feel like a North Carolinian, as opposed to someone who lives in South Carolina. But that being said, so we followed lots of science centers, museums to kind of take a look at what their virtual content looks like. As most of you can note, a lot of the virtual content is pushing out education-related things to help enhance the kind of teaching and learning that goes along with a lot of the students being home, or to highlight the collections. Well, we wanted to do that and more. So that led us next to taking a look at some of the platforms that would best support what it was that we wanted to do. We noticed that a lot of museums were looking at YouTube Live, looking at Kahoot. There's lots of folks using Zoom, Instagram Live, and kind of the typical standard platforms that you would think about. We also noticed that quite a few of them were utilizing Kahoot as a way to be able to not only track scores, but to kind of break out what was happening in terms of the questions. So we investigated further with the Kahoot platform. We already had kind of Zoom already, and what really appealed to us about using Kahoot was that we could use it for more than just virtual trivia. So that was part of our decision making for figuring out what platforms were best for us to use. We took a look at how it would be beneficial to the museum beyond the time when we're back in person to do what it is that we do to educate the public. And we realized that with our distance learning that we currently already do, and then some of the other initiatives that we're going to try to push out once we make our way back to the museum, the Kahoot really would be most beneficial for the variety of uses, not just trivia. And Lydia's going to talk about making it happen.
Yeah, so me and I, like she said, we did some research, looked at a lot of other museums, and so we needed to narrow down how can we make it easy for the viewers, make it easy for people to interact with us, and it just wouldn't get so confusing, because I noticed from some organizations who are kind of testing it out that it wasn't flowing very well. So I started playing around with YouTube Live. A lot harder than I thought, but my teenage cousin told me that it's not. So so we decided on Zoom, since the museum already had a Zoom account, and we realized we could stream the platform Kahoot onto Zoom as well, and just did it kind of webinar style. So the only things you'll see on the screen would be Timia, myself, and the Kahoot where you would plug in your answers. So after we figured out our two platforms that we wanted to use, and we taught ourselves how to use them in the correct way, we were like, what is our target audience going to be? And we decided, well, most of the virtual programming our museum is offering was family oriented and was very education driven towards kids and students. So we wanted to have more of an adult target audience. And we thought that way we could have some light adult humor. You wouldn't really have to filter the questions as much, and people would still learn something. So what we decided to do once we had all of our ducks in a row, we did a test run of trivia, and we invited friends from other organizations, our colleagues, and some of just our friends. And we asked them to do a trial run with us, and they gave us their feedback. And after that, we realized what we could work on, what we needed to fix in order to make it run smoothly. And so it ended up going really well. We had a couple of things we needed to work on, but we figured them out, and we did our first trivia last week, and it ended up running smoothly, other than a few technical difficulties. But some problems that we faced were, how would people who wanted to be on the same trivia team, but they were in different households, how could we make that happen? Well, with Kahoot, if they were able to do a sub-chat group over their phone or Teams, they were still able to be on the same team and answer the questions and win the prizes that we were offering. So it was just a lot of logistical errors we had to figure out, but we came up with verbiage to communicate at the beginning of trivia, and it all ran really smoothly. So then the next thing we had to focus on was sponsorship and marketing for it. So the Kahoot platform, in order to reach a large audience, was not cheap. And because the museum stores have been closed, we've all been cutting back on spending money. So I thought, well, what if we found someone who would want to sponsor this? And I'd been communicating with Columbia Craft Brewery prior to COVID and the madness happening about sponsoring the trivia. We wanted to do it at the museum anyways. And so I reached out to my contact over there, and they were immediately in. We made a deal to sign on to trivia. They'll sponsor trivia even once we open our doors back up and things go back to normal. And the money they donated covered the cost of Kahoot and our membership for a year. And then they also donated prizes. And with that, we put that with the prizes and them sponsoring us. We figured that would be a great initiative to bring in more of an adult audience. So once we got all that figured out, we were talking to our marketing department, and we're like, how do we want to market this? How do we want to word it? Like, how are we going to get this out to the correct audience? So, of course, we did our normal Facebook event page, and then we put it on our event webpage. But we coordinated with Columbia Craft, too, for them to get it out to their followers and their community through their social media. And then we did our normal social media posts as well. But we were able to reach a wider audience by bringing in Columbia Craft and working with them. And so it was nice having them as a sponsor, because we really had to evaluate the cost effectiveness of this to execute the way we wanted to do it. So I'm glad they agreed to help us. And it really worked out that this sponsorship and partnership happened, since we want to extend it beyond once the doors open.
So that brings us to our kind of final talking point, upcoming virtual trivia dates. Our trivia time slot that we were kind of given by marketing, but also taking a look at what other things that we had on our docket. We do trivia from 6:30 to 7:30. We figured it was a great time to give folks a chance to be home from work. And then it wasn't too late in the evening for folks who may have had to put the children to bed or that kind of thing. We tried to do kind of medium range time. And so also we didn't run into other things that folks might like to do with their evenings. We tried to pick fun and engaging titles to go with the trivia topics. And then each is themed based on an area of focus that our museum focuses on. I failed to mention it earlier, but the way we got our trivia questions, the majority of them were provided by our curators, who went through their floors, went through what they had in the collection, and provided what they thought would be some fun and interesting questions for a kiosk that we were originally going to have present in the museum. But later, we kind of put the stop on that, or that's on hold, and we're using these questions for trivia as well as pop culture questions as well. So this Thursday's trivia, picture it: South Carolina art and history. It's our nod to Golden Girls, because I am a huge Golden Girls fan, and I have been watching quite a bit of it during this time of staying at home. The following week, we're Starstruck with science and technology and astronomy. And then that last June 4th date of virtual trivia for now is Can You Dig It SC? And I believe that is our time for now. So I'm going to go ahead and stop our share, and we'll take questions at the end.
Yeah. Thank you so much, the two of you. Now we're going to go right with Katy Menne, and she's, again, the Curator of Education at the North Carolina Maritime Museum in Southport.
Hey everyone, my time to share my screen. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm doing more of an overview of what we've been doing across our social media platforms since we closed. Let me see if I can make this larger. All right. So I am the Curator of Education here. There's only 3 of us full-time at the museum, so the marketing stuff, the digital items tend to fall to me as well. So we are on several different platforms, as I'm sure all of your places are on a variety of platforms as well. And then the background picture is our front entranceway on a very sunny day, which is not today. So this is what we settled on when we decided it was time to close our doors, when the state of North Carolina said it is time for you to spend some time at home. And we tried to have some sort of consistency. So you can always expect to see something each day at these particular times, and just topics would rotate. Now, this is the basic outline that we would do, and we'd add stuff in as we saw fit, but you could always count on this. So there was a live learning aspect every Tuesday evening. Wednesdays and Saturdays, you had a live or a story time. Sometimes it was live, sometimes it was pre-recorded. We always have our trivia question on Thursdays. I would go live on our Facebook for a craft time, and then we would do some sort of yoga stretch with instructions on our Instagram. So here's just some of the pictures that I pulled off of our platform. So you can see that there's story time on our YouTube channel. We've grown pretty substantially on YouTube since we closed our doors for our temporary closure. Some of our live learning was cooking, some was our third Tuesday lectures. It varied in what we had access to. The main picture of our crew and a stuffed bird doing yoga poses is how we were doing our Sunday stretches. So we took a traditional yoga pose and then somehow made it into something maritime. Since I do work at a maritime museum, we have to somehow bring it back to the water. And the middle picture there, I am doing craft time, and it was always using a toilet paper tube. We know everyone has those. It was a hot button issue and topic, at least in North Carolina, and I can only imagine across the country. So it was like, well, we're going to use these toilet paper tubes instead of, maybe something you don't have at your house. So every week we posted a different activity for people of all ages and abilities to partake in. Our scavenger hunts are one of the most noted items as being the favorite thing when they come to visit. And since we have our doors closed, we were like, well, how can we make this digital? So we gave them a couple options. So one week we did a website scavenger hunt where they had to go through our website and answer questions. And if they submitted a picture of their completed scavenger hunt and their mailing address, I would mail them out a prize. And that's across the board with anything that people completed. We would contact them and say, hey, provide us your mailing address. We'll send you something in the mail. And then the easier version. So when it was spring break for our kids here in southeastern North Carolina, we posted an easier version. So just pictures that you had to hunt through different social media platforms. So some of the items that have been trending, we just adapted to be maritime. So pick your house, that's been one that's been going around, and we just adapted it to stuff that we do. So either classes, lectures, exhibits, something of that nature, and then people got to pick this or that. Some of the things that I created was we did a playoff of our exhibits to see who would win, and posted that out for anybody who wanted to compete. My personal favorite is the Pick Your Maritime Mate. My demographic, my age tends to like to do the online dating thing, which is awesome. Makes it quite easy for those people who work a whole bunch. And we just used it with our historic figures that we talk about in the museum. And so I think I enjoyed it much more so than a lot of other people because I was cackling at some of the things that we put up here. And then when this was posted, I wrote a couple sentences just meaning who they were and why they're important to our museum. Some other options was pick your office view, like if you had to be trapped somewhere, where would you like to work? Pick your fishing instrument, anything that we could relate back to maritime. We've done bingo. We've asked about what your last thing you did was. Posted Mad Libs and word searches, anything that we could get engagement from. So our age demographic is fairly expansive. We have a lot of parents that follow because their kids or grandkids have either had programs here, have come to classes, come bring their come and enjoy scavenger hunts. And then we have a big demographic of retired population as well. So when we decided how are we going to reach all these different ages, we kind of tried to pick something that could apply to everybody. And with the trends of wanting to do family-centered or group-centered activities, it was, how can you pair an adult with a child? How can you learn things together? So two of the bigger things that have happened that are more intensive than just look at a picture, complete a prompt, and get a prize mailed to you. So I created this digital exhibit on our website, and I used Prezi, and they have the pre-done templates, and I just filled in and edited as I saw fit. But it's all about the United States Seabees, and so their mascot is a bumblebee. That is why there's a bumblebee on there. And so what people got to do was click through and have a digital experience of something that's brand new, that's not in the museum now. It was planned to. We have a rotating exhibit space, but we closed before we could get it installed and shown to the public. So this was a way to not only honor the fact that we have these loaned items and these donated items, but it was also a way that people could learn something new. Even if you've been here every day for the last year, this is something brand new that you probably didn't know about. It also gave us the opportunity to add things in that we wouldn't necessarily be able to in a formal exhibit, like videos and music and all sorts of other items. The other one, which is coming up this Saturday, is our National Maritime Day. So May 22nd is National Maritime Day every year. And we have done a celebration the last couple of years on the weekends surrounding it. So this year it was scheduled for the Saturday, May 23rd in the afternoon. But because we can't host in-person programs, we decided instead of canceling it, like we've canceled so many other things, we're trying to move as much virtual as possible. So I reached out to all the people who had agreed to help with the in-person program and asked them if they would be willing to create a video to talk about how their organization or entity helps maritime history or has shaped maritime culture. And then North Carolina, we're in the midst of the Year of the Woman, so we tied that in as well. So we asked, if you can link in the women that currently work there or historically have been involved with your organization, then to ask it. So it's an event page on Facebook, and you can schedule posts. Every 15 minutes, a different video will post to the event page, so people can just hang out in there or come back as they see fit. But it also is all in one place, so it won't get lost on the page. It won't get lost in our video feed. So one of the cool things, I have to pull the analytics for all of our platforms, and you can see the trends of prior to our temporary stay at home to what it was through the end of April, I believe is when I pulled this. So it's gone up exponentially. We previously had not done very many videos. It was pretty limited. And so if you're not doing videos, it does seem very daunting. It is not as daunting as some may think. So I would highly encourage you, if you have the ability to create video programs or content, to do that, because the numbers are very high. And then the same thing with our other platforms as well. We've seen a vast increase with the different things that we've added. So the major downturn for the March to April numbers, I will note that in April we posted substantially less, but also we're thinking that the saturation of social media, when everybody started to overpost and share, and there was just so much content that everybody was overwhelmed, that we saw a decrease. And we saw a decrease in things that people normally were very high. So like our trivia questions, we always had pretty high response rates on, and even those were very low. So some of the other things that we've done Homeschool Spirit Week, NC Earth Day 50. The National Travel and Tourism Week was this past week. We also participated in NC Museums Unlock and Museum Week. The North Carolina Museum Week is coming up the first week of June, so we've got a ton of stuff for that as well. And then one thing that we decided to do, kind of spur of the moment, and to try and bring some light to a summer that a lot of people are feeling is going to be vastly different, is the 12 Days of Maritime Merriment. So one, in hopes of not using a religious holiday, but also to be able to highlight some of the fun stuff in our museum, or some of the stuff that you see around Southport as a whole. We'll be tweeting out some of those as well. So these are the different platforms that we offer at present. We are working on a social media audit for our membership and our volunteers to see what have they liked in the last few months. How can we either continue things or change them so that it's interesting for them? Obviously, like you've heard previously, it's not all about what I like. So I might think something's hilarious, but somebody else is not going to find it funny, which we've definitely seen. And like our staff will appreciate things that some of our patrons don't find as funny. So we are, I was working on that actually earlier today. And there's my contact information. Today is the first day that I've been back to work a full day in my office. So my phone number is actually reconnected now. But that is everything that I had.
Thank you so much, Katy. Real quick, how are you distributing your social media audits? What are you using?
So I just briefly made a Google Forms.
Okay.
And then we use Benchmark email for our newsletter, for our monthly newsletter. So we'll probably send it out there and then send it to our board through like personal emails.
Okay.
So we're in the very start of that. We were discussing that at our staff meeting of like, hey, I'm one person and I have to go back to like my normal job, not my social media job, and trying to balance that a little bit better. So we wanted to get a feel for what other people wanted to see.
And that brings me back. Katy, you had mentioned that you are a staff of how many working on this?
Okay, so there's 3 of us that work at the museum.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you're probably doing the bulk of this work. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this is something that we're seeing over and over again as we do these webinars. There's very few people producing a whole lot of content. And a lot of times we don't have the backgrounds to produce this content, but we're doing a pretty good job of it, considering that we were sort of thrown into the fire. The other speakers, Timia, Lydia, and I'm so sorry, I'm like brain dead right now. Courtney, how many people are working on your virtual program with you, just roundabout?
The
4.
trivia is just
The 2 of us.
and I, and then we all kind of have our other virtual programs we're working on as well. So I probably have a good 6, but this one to me and I tag team.
It's just myself and boss, so it's just the 2 of us, basically on Zoom all day, just planning stuff together.
Yeah, and
so
I think
call logs just to me.
Yeah, I think it's great though that we can produce this. It makes it doable. When I see examples of things that other people are doing, I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can get this done. But then I see people are getting this done and distributing it out. What kind of equipment are you using to make videos or recordings? Any specialized software besides those you already mentioned, the platforms like Prezi and Kahoot? But are you just using your cell phones for videos? What kind of equipment are you using?
In terms of design, if you're new to design, Photoshop can be a little bit scary to use, but I do recommend using Canva. It's a really easy space, and you can also make videos straight from there. They have really cool interactive templates for that. And if you're like me, you love a deal, your first 30 days, if you sign up for a premium account, which gives you a lot more amenities in the site, you can use that for free for 30 days. So you can knock out a bunch of content and then deactivate before they charge you $69.95. So really great site that I use to make a lot of my marketing things.
And it's interesting because I work in a college system. Adobe did make some of their products free to college and university systems. And so if you have an association with somebody that works in a college or university, but during the shutdown, they did make a lot of their products free, so you might be able to get access to those right now. Let me pull up my questions again. We were wondering about prizes. What kind of prizes are you distributing? How are you getting them out? They donated? Do you have a budget line?
Craft did donate swag, and it's just a variety of glasses, t-shirts, and hats. And we kind of tiered them off for first, second, and third. And then the museum is donating a membership to the first place winner of trivia. The second place winner gets 6 Explorer tickets, and third place gets 4 Explorer tickets, all on top of the swag that they'll win as well. And we have offered to mail it to the winners, or once our museum doors open back up, they are more than welcome to come get it as well. But the Explorer tickets and the membership, we can send it in virtually.
Katy, I think you'd mentioned prizes.
Yeah, so mine's like super cheesy. We just mail like stickers. So typically when you do a scavenger hunt in the museum, you get like a 3D something that you get to pick out.
Mm-hmm.
But to make it easy for everyone being at home, I just handwrite a thank you card and stick a sticker in there and mail it to them.
I actually can't stress how much I think getting mail these days, like physical mail, not electronic mail, is to people. Yesterday, my son got a letter in the mail and it was like the holidays again. So I think stickers are great. On average, about how much are these programs costing you in hard costs, not staff costs, but in hard costs? What do you think y'all are spending on them? Any
Courtney,
significant amount?
I like to go the free route.
Yeah.
And that's why I really stress community. And that's why I really stress showing that you are an ally with a lot of your prisoners or people that you have doing guest events with you. Because that way you can save money because y'all are both having a mutually beneficial relationship. There's both services that are being provided and also a really great end yield at the end of it. So my budget's usually $3.99. The most I may pay is if I want to use like a videographer for something, or if I give someone an honorarium, because once again, we do want to validate someone's time. So that's the most that I may invest into a public program event.
So our museum has invested in a higher tier of Zoom, just because of the frequency in which we use it. We also use Zoom for our observatory distance learning for school groups. So it really was a great investment, not just for what's happening now, but we were using Zoom pre everybody having to stay at home for a little bit. The Kahoot platform runs us for the professional version that we use, the business professional, around close to about $500, which is why, as Lydia mentioned, we realized we needed a sponsor. Part of the reason why we chose that particular tier, because there are less expensive tiers, is because of the use that we could potentially have for school groups and moving forward, and allow for a larger number of folks to be a part of the Kahoot. Just the regular standard one was just 50 people. This one goes up to about 2,000 can be signed on, so it gave us more versatility for what it was that we need. And then our education department has invested in OBS software and a couple of other things, because we are moving towards doing virtual summer camp in the next couple of weeks.
What kind of software is it again? No, write it down.
OBS.
OBS.
Now, what that stands for, our astronomy people have that, so I'm not quite sure.
I will find out. Included in the resources.
Yeah.
So with participation, are you tracking if your participation, they're members, are they new people, are they local, they from somewhere else, because the internet is everywhere. Are you using some sort of metrics to track that? Are you seeing any kinds of trends in attracting new visitors?
I did notice that a lot of people who joined in trivia last week were not members. We did ask everyone to let us know where they were from, and we can take notes on those statistics. But then our marketing department will filter out who member-wise participated, and then get the location of the others when they register. Oh.
Katy or Courtney?
We just use since most of our stuff is just on our social media platforms, we just pull the standard analytics off to see where people are from. For some of the things like our virtual learning kits or summer camps, we do have to know like specifically where they are. But as far as what I've talked about today, no, we don't really follow on like where people are coming from.
Mm-hmm. And there have been a couple questions about images. When you do trivia or when you're posting some of your content, where are you pulling your images from?
Well, I use, we have a great resource called the Low Country Digital Library. So if I am doing things that are centered around historic content, I want to make sure that I'm using the best images from our community-based groups. And also, if I do have a speaker or someone who is assisting us with the event, I kind of ask them, what would you like us to share? Would you send in something so that I can have this for the media, for the marketing? And that usually works the best. I wouldn't advise doing too much Google images just for copyright infringement and stuff like that. But I would say if you are connected to any type of digital archive, to kind of utilize those resources that you may have.
So yeah, Canva has a lot of the free images that you can use. We also either use our own images, or because we're Maritime, the Naval History and Heritage Command offers all of their stuff is free because it's a federal entity. So we get to utilize a lot of that as well.
And we don't use a whole lot of images in our trivia, but the images that we do use is from Kahoot, the open source that they allow for images, the ones that are free. And then if we have something specific, we try to use images that are belonging to us.
Yeah, it's copyright is one of those interesting things. I think people are really lax and sort of forgetting about the rules and being easy on enforcing the rules the first, 8 weeks of this. But as time goes on, I just saw a webinar the other day about music, about how musicians are cracking down on people playing their music in their videos. And so if you have an instructor who's leading something and they happen to be playing the radio in the background and you can hear, a song come on, that's a copyright infringement. And so these things are really interesting to start learning about and making sure that you're using them. The fair use thing doesn't always fly. And so we have to get sort of used to that. And also with your memberships, when you give memberships away as prizes, you are retroactively making those begin once the museum reopens to the public. Is that the case for all?
Yes.
That's what I would assume. And then also, when you do reopen, do you anticipate keeping some of these programs on your menu? I mean, have you found value in them that would extend past the shutdown?
Like we stated earlier, we want to keep trivia going. Mm-hmm. And we on Tuesdays and the last Tuesday of every month, we do Second Shift Tuesday, where the museum is open late. In the summer, we're open till 10, and then around September, we start staying open till 8. And so that's when we would like to offer it to our guests. And we always have beer tastings at those trivias, and during Second Shift Tuesdays and live music. So we're hoping it could bring in a big crowd. But as for now, we'll stay online until probably, I don't even.
I know.
I misunderstood.
But it's interesting because I do see value in these. The more that I've done these webinars, I actually see value in them because I'm meeting people and I'm talking to people from across the region versus just in my backyard. And so I have been finding a lot of value for these. Any other questions? Because we're running right up to time. Or any questions that I missed, you can go ahead and put them in the chat or throw them out there for our speakers.
Our trivia is free. We have discussed maybe doing a pay what you can model version of it down the road, but for now it will stay free.
Okay. And again, that goes back, and I'll just plug my next week's topic. So Tuesday, I believe it's the 26th, so I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but we are going to have a talk about charging for virtual programming. And again, coming up with that price point, because every community is different. And so you want to keep that in mind, but coming up with that price point, and then also thinking it through in our heads, and establishing the idea that at some point we're going to have to charge for some of this programming, with grants and sponsorships becoming less and less and less and less as fundraising sort of turns to social services versus, cultural institutions. There's going to have to be some time when we start really thinking about income. And so that's next week's talk. And again, it's on Tuesday at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'd like to thank everybody today for participating. Thank you, Courtney, Lydia, Timia, and Katy. I really appreciate it. And I found a lot of good content in this, and so I really do appreciate your time. And I'd like to thank everybody else for tuning in today. And I'm going to throw it back to Zinnia real quick.
Yeah, this was great. I had my video off for a while because I was getting calls about security, because I still work here at the Gibbs too. It's getting difficult to manage both, but I was listening the whole time, and I may reach out to some of you because I'd kind of love to do SEMC trivia.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking about it going forward and along those lines, we do a happy hour every Friday at 5 o'clock. It's just a drop in, and I'll send the links out again. But we've been playing happy hour bingo, but maybe that spins into happy hour trivia. But anyway, please join us for those. It's a nice way to end the week. And yeah, looks like there's some support for trivia. Maybe I'll do a poll on that next week. Thank you all. That was great. I enjoyed every single one of those presentations and wrote down lots of good takeaways. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for being with SEMC, continuing to support through membership. We're trying to make that as easy as possible going forward, because I get it. I understand what a difficult situation everybody's in right now. But we'll be here for you weekly for a while, at least, as long as Michele doesn't lose steam. I've seen some other good topics come up. I just saw something on Facebook come up about creating online exhibits. Seems to be a lot of interest in that. It's a little bit different than what we're talking about today. So we're working on a session for June about inclusion and diversity, and during closure and during reopening, and some of the impact on those fronts. So we've got more to come, and stick with us. We'll be here. Thank you all. Have a great week.